This is the SimiCube Active Pedal, paired with their passive throttle pedal. In the world of sim racing pedals, the Active Pedal stands in a class of its own. As the first with force feedback, its software-based approach allows you unlimited adjustability, repeatability, and telemetry-based force feedback effects. And yes, it's very expensive, but yes, it's very good. So stick around, I'm going to break down everything you need to know, including whether I think it's worth the investment and why. Now, as always, full transparency. As you may already be aware, SimiCube offered me the opportunity to review these pedals and a few of their other products, including the SimiCube 2 Ultimate Wheelbase and the brand new Valo GT23 steering wheel. In return, I agreed to produce additional content and other reviews which I'll be releasing over the coming months. The Active Pedal, passive throttle pedal, and base plate were sent to me for free of charge, and to be clear, this is not a paid collaboration or sponsored video. SimiCube were actually very clear that they wanted my honest impressions and feedback in order to further improve their products. Your sim rig can be more than what you imagine, but you're going to need accessories to accomplish that. SimSport Gadget accessories are a must-have for anyone looking to improve their sim rig. They have hundreds of accessories including mounts for Govee and Hue lights, power brick mounts for all the major brands, headphone keyboard mounts, and so much more. They also have some great cable management clips to help you organize your sim rig. You can even customize the color to match the theme of your setup. Check out our affiliate link below and use promo code SimRacingDen to save 5% off your order. Now, as a fellow sim racer and enthusiast, I always look forward to trying and reviewing new hardware. In this case, I was obviously very excited, but I made sure to put aside some of my excitement and carefully examine the products to understand both its capabilities and potential downfalls. This review aims to provide a valuable perspective for those considering purchasing this high-cost hardware. It can be challenging to justify the value of these products without trying them first. Unfortunately, the reality is that many of you won't have the opportunity to try them before buying, especially with high-end sim racing hardware like the Active Pedal. This is due to the fact that access to these products can be limited. Depending on where you live, unless you attend an expo or perhaps have a local sim racing center that just happens to have an Active Pedal. However, perhaps this limited access can be a good thing for those of you who are maybe trying to resist the temptation to buy this pedal. Now, my approach to this review was one with very high expectations and scrutiny as always, but my ultimate goal was to understand for myself if the experience of using the Active Pedal and their own passive throttle is one that's worth the high price tag. Now that we're on the topic, let's address the elephant in the room. Yes, these pedals are very expensive, both as a piece of simulation hardware and in comparison to a traditional sim racing pedal set. The cost may even exceed the price of some people's entire setups. Now, for those with the means, this might not be a problem. However, for many, it's not a straightforward decision and may require careful budgeting. And some people might not even be in a position to buy these pedals right now, or may have already decided that they're not for them. Now, when it comes to purchasing an Active Pedal, you have a few options. The first option is to buy a primary pedal for about 2,400 euros and use it with a third-party throttle or pedal set. You can use any third-party pedals with the SimiCube Active Pedal. However, you won't be able to use SimiCube's tuner software to adjust the throttle and clutch if you order an Active Pedal for your brake, which is the most likely scenario for majority of people buying only one pedal. Instead, you'll use your other pedal's native software for adjustments. If you're transitioning from, say, a set of Heusinkveld pedals or want to pair a Sprint or Ultimate Plus pedal with the Active Pedal, there's an additional benefit. With SimiCube's optional pedal connector, you can connect your Heusinkveld pedals to the back of the Active Pedal. This allows you to adjust all the pedals within one software, instead of using two separate ones, which is a convenient feature. Now, if you're purchasing the Active Pedal for your first sim racing setup, the cost will vary. This brings us to the second option, buying two Active Pedals. One serves as the primary pedal, including the necessary power supply, and an additional Active Pedal add-on is used as the throttle. This would set you back about 4,425 euros. Now, if you wanted to add a third pedal to complete the full set with a clutch, you're looking at a total cost which will be out for 6,300 euros. Now, the final option that SimiCube provided me here is the passive throttle pedal. While it doesn't have force feedback, It's a high quality pedal for sim racing, which I'll discuss in more detail later. The throttle's price is €337. The SimiCube Active pedal uses a force feedback motor, moving away from the traditional components like springs, elastomers, and dampers you'll find in typical sim racing pedals. This pedal really shows off its capabilities when used as a brake, which is likely what most people considering this pedal would be after it for. You can also change the role of the active pedal with one click, allowing you to use them as a throttle or clutch. The SimiCube software comes into play here, offering specific settings to make each pedal feel more realistic for its respective function. The overall design here is very SimiCube, modern, bold, minimal, with a splash of their signature orange branding. It's a striking looking thing, and when just sitting on its own demands your attention. The design feels very much function over form, but does so in a very purposeful built or industrial feel. Now, I knew the active pedal was going to be large before receiving it, but until you see it in person, it's hard to comprehend. It hangs off quite a bit on my ASR rig's pedal plate, which isn't an issue, but for some who have their rig tight in a corner, may have to make some allowances for it. Also, the sheer weight was really surprising. This thing is a brick. I would honestly say this is going to be reserved for install on a sturdy aluminum profile rig only, or perhaps a very rigid tube frame, but you need to make sure your pedal plate can support it. Now, speaking of pedal plates, you can opt to purchase SimiCube's base plate with the pedals, which they sent me to check out. It's very well made and was pretty easy to put together, and could help those facilitate the best configuration. But for me, I already have things dialed in well with my ASR Pro pedal plate and heel plate, so it's just a matter of mounting them up to the profile. The overall construction of the active pedal is nothing short of outstanding and super premium, which is something I was used to with SimiCube wheelbases. SimiCube's attention to detail and build is on another level. I have yet to encounter better made products in the sim racing market. The advantage of this foregoing the traditional pedal parts like elastomers, springs, or hydraulics is this will need barely to no maintenance, I'm told. Although it may look like a very complex system, most of that is produced through the software, thus giving you probably one of the most reliable and consistent sim racing pedals you can buy. On the top of the pedal, you'll find the faceplate. I appreciate the design and the solid construction. However, I found the size of the pedal faceplate a bit too small, especially when it's used as a brake. This is just a personal and subjective opinion, but I definitely prefer using something like SimCore's replacement pedal faces. They blend seamlessly with the design as if they were made by SimiCube, and offer the same adjustability but with a larger footprint. I can't highly recommend these enough. SimiCube does now offer their own replacement pedal faces, however my recommendation is to include them maybe with the pedals. This provides then the option for a larger pedal face right out of the box, since everyone has different foot sizes and preferences. Given the price point, I believe it's important to avoid any potential disappointments related to the pedals. As we move from the front of the pedal to the back, you'll find the arm that connect the pedal to the force feedback motor, in mostly orange with the exception of some connection points in black. This as well is very well built. You'd be hard pressed to find any plastic on these pedals. The housing itself feels very similar to the SimiCube wheelbase. If you've encountered one, it's a very premium smooth feeling metal that just looks and feels high end. On the rear of the pedal, you'll find a small power button and several connection ports to facilitate power and pairing additional pedals and the SimiCube link box, which I'll talk about a bit later on in the video when we discuss compatibility. Overall, it was very difficult to find really anything to fault here. When it comes to the build quality, it's top-notch stuff at every corner. Let's now shift our focus on the passive throttle pedal. It shares much of the same SimiCube level of build quality and design. It's a perfect match to the active pedal, creating a uniform look on your pedal plate, which is something I personally appreciate and perhaps you might too. This throttle pedal has a number of adjustment points similar to other traditional pedals. I'll provide more detail on these in the adjustability chapter of this video. The pedal plate on this throttle is nice, but I do prefer the SimCore version again, which has a slight curve compared to the flat SimiCube version. However, something like the pedal faceplate is a matter of personal preference. In terms of build quality and design, I love everything about this throttle pedal. It makes the Heusenfeld pedal seem a bit dated, with its modern and sleek black design. Similar to the active pedal, you'll find mounting slots on the base of the pedal, making it easy to mount to any aluminum profile rig or its own base plate. With the active pedal, many of the mechanical adjustments you would normally make on sim racing pedals are now software based. However, there are still a few physical adjustments you can set and forget. The first adjustment is related to pedal travel offset. The easiest way to change this is through the tuner software. If however you want to extend beyond the software configurable travel, simply loosen the screws on the pedal rod and move the sliding parts to one of the three positions: short, middle, or long. What sets SimiCube apart is their attention to detail. When you adjust this arm, it has 3 levels that click softly and lock when you move it back or forward. These premium touches definitely make a difference. The second adjustment optimizes force versus travel. The active pedal has 2 mechanical settings detailed in the manual. Choose the mode according to your preferred force and travel range. In order to do this, you reassemble this part as illustrated and update the setting in the tuner software. While I was content with the default settings, it's nice to have this level of customization available. The final physical adjustments relate to the pedal faces. You can change both the height and angle of the pedal face. This is simply a matter of loosening 2 screws for each adjustment and retightening. Many of these adjustments are relatively easy to make with the pedal mounted to the rig, but they do require a tool. However, this is not a big deal as they are likely adjustments you'll set once and then forget after initially mounting them to your rig. SimiCube's passive throttle, unlike the active pedal, primarily involves mechanical adjustments, other than software-based settings such as curves and dead zones. The first adjustment is the pedal face height, which functions similarly to the active pedal. This can be adjusted by loosening 2 screws and sliding the pedal face up or down. The pedal face angle can also be modified by loosening the 4 screws, 2 on each side. The pedal tilt is adjustable by loosening the 2 screws on the pedal subframe, then sliding it up or down. An added detail is that it clicks and soft locks at each position, making it easy to check the pedal angle on your rig before retightening. Like many other passive pedals, you can alter the force curve by loosening the screw on the pedal lever. The pedal spring can be replaced with an alternative spring that comes in the box. This task is relatively simple, but it does require removing the pedal shaft assembly, similar to other pedals on the market. I found the default spring to be perfect for me, offering a good amount of resistance. The only adjustments I had to make were the pedal angle and travel, which can be adjusted using the easy-to-use orange knob. Turning it counterclockwise gives you more travel, while turning it clockwise gives less. I appreciate the toolless adjustment feature, as other pedals often have a rubber bump stop that requires loosening 2 screws on either side and then moving it forwards or backwards, which can be difficult once the pedal is mounted to your rig. The final physical adjustment on the throttle is the preload, which is adjusted by turning the knob at the top of the spring closest to the pedal arm. I felt no need to adjust this as the default setting was fine to my liking. The active pedal appears to your PC as a standard USB game controller, meaning it can work with any racing game that supports such a device. However, only supported games provide telemetry data effects like RPM and ABS. For a list of supported games and their respective features, check out SimiCube's support website. This will guide you on whether you need to enable telemetry in the game settings. Effects like brake threshold vibration and clutch bite point don't require telemetry data and are available in all games. I'll explain this in more detail in a separate setup guide video for the active pedal. This information is crucial when considering purchasing the active pedal, especially in relation to your preferred games or sims. The active pedal can be paired with a passive throttle pedal, including SimiCube's throttle, and other specific passive pedals verified by SimiCube as connectable to the active pedal system. Now, connectable means the pedal can be wired to one of the active external pedal ports and configured through the tuner software instead of their native software. Currently, the only third-party pedals supporting this are Heusenfeld Sprint Ultimate and Ultimate Plus pedals. Regarding other brands' passive pedals, any USB connected pedal should work with the active pedal as long as you can physically fit it onto your rig. Note that using a direct USB connection on passive pedals will rely on their respective software. Let's discuss some features of the active pedal which set it apart from other more traditional sim racing pedals. Most of these features are configurable within SimiCube's tuner software, where the magic of the force feedback really happens. First, I'm going to briefly go through the various effects, giving you a good idea of the pedal's capabilities and which effects I found most useful. In a future video, I'm going to delve into every little detail of the settings and explain more about what can be tweaked. These effects use the game or sim's telemetry to create different kinds of feedback. As I mentioned earlier, the effects have limited simulation support, but this is likely going to increase over time as more developers take advantage of the hardware's capabilities. The first effect is motor vibration. Its frequency changes based on the car's RPMs. I didn't typically enjoy using this effect, however, after experimenting with different settings, I found that a subtle effect was the best for me. Your experience may vary. Since I already use haptics on my chassis for a similar effect, I found this to be somewhat redundant. Nonetheless, it's a cool feature and I found the effect to be superior to other standalone pedal haptic devices that I've tried. This effect, of course, simulates the feeling of an active brake or ABS system, which feels very realistic. This effect is one of the most useful features of the active pedal, particularly for mastering braking in vehicles with ABS enabled. It's the best and most realistic implementation I've ever experienced on a sim racing pedal set. This can only be felt when the assist is enabled in the sim or on the vehicle you're driving, and gives you the feedback on the pedal when the traction control is engaged. This was another effect I personally didn't enable often because it's not exactly realistic. While this sensation might be felt in a real vehicle, it's not typically experienced through the pedal. However, it can be beneficial in improving your driving by indicating when you're on the edge of losing traction. This also would be best enabled on the active pedal being used for throttle. Now this is an interesting effect that simulates the feeling of G-forces pushing the driver towards the seat belts and pedals during braking, and the sinking in the seat during acceleration. It has two aspects, movement and texture. The movement is a slow adjustment of the actual pedal position that causes the main feeling of the G-forces, while the textured side provides a sharper effect that reacts to short changes in the car's acceleration, like switching gears or colliding with something. I found this to be a really cool feature that adds additional immersion and a sense of speed. This effect allows you to receive a notification when the game input reaches the defined trigger level, helping you train and optimize braking patterns to avoid tire wear or lockup. This effect doesn't actually require any telemetry data from the game, which is nice and could be very useful for hitting those perfect braking points. This effect gives vibrations when the game input is near the defined trigger level. The closer the pedal is to the trigger point, the stronger the vibration, giving you a realistic sensation of reaching the clutch bite point. Finally, brake lockup. This effect provides vibration feedback when the brakes or wheels are locking during braking. There are plenty of effects here I feel to dial in your preferred setup. Some people will utilize more than others, and I'm a firm believer sometimes in less is more, and I prefer just having the ABS and the G-force on, or relying on my other haptics like the Butt Kicker Pro to handle things such as motor vibration. The next component of the tuner software is pedal feel, which offers unlimited adjustments and configurations to achieve your desired pedal feel. Firstly, the force curve adjusts the pedal's travel range. The force curve is determined by the software-driven end stop within the active pedal, ensuring that the pedal cannot be pushed beyond its limits. Beneath the force curve, a slider defines the maximum physical pedal travel range. Once this is set, the force curve adjusts accordingly. The travel is calculated from the center of the pedal face, following a circular circumference. To the right of the force curve, the maximum force slider defines the pressure required to reach the top of the force curve as per your grid. To the left of the force curve, the preload slider defines the minimum force required to move the pedal from its default resting position. Preload is typically used to allow your foot to rest on the pedal without moving it or activating the game input. The best method I use to set preload is to rest my foot on the pedal and increase the preload until the pedal is in its resting position. As you can see, you have many options at your disposal. If this feels overwhelming, don't worry, because Simucube offers several profiles that you can load, and they have collaborated with many experienced real-life drivers to create their own profiles. A notable example is Daniel Morad's GT profile, which is based on his extensive real-life racing experience. I may not know what a GT race car should feel like, but I trust that Daniel does, and his profile reflects this, aiding in his training for driving his real-life Mercedes-AMG GT3. Those after sim racing realism at its highest level, these pedals are likely going to get you the closest, and the collaboration with real-world race car drivers proves it. What does it feel like to drive with the active pedal and throttle? Well, it's nothing short of amazing. Transitioning from my previous Heusinkveld set took a few initial laps to recalibrate my muscle memory. However, I quickly regained my pace and began setting better lap times with each turn. The brake feels remarkably dynamic, unlike any sim racing pedal I previously used. It provides a tactile feedback that allows you to perceive every nuance of how the car is responding. Trail braking becomes more intuitive, and the ABS feedback assists in refining braking points. While you might consider just adding a SimMagic haptic pedal reactor or similar enhancements to achieve ABS feedback, but remember that they are just components of what the active pedal offers. This system provides one of the most immersive experiences I've encountered since upgrading to a Simucube wheelbase a while back. Will these pedals make you faster? Potentially yes, but skill is still a significant factor. Don't expect these to be a shortcut to quicker lap times. They are a tool, and their effectiveness depends on how it's used and by whom. Even if you're already fast, these pedals could help you shave those crucial tenths off your lap time, while offering you the most premium and realistic sim racing pedal experience. The build quality is impressive, and the intuitive software makes it easy to switch between profiles for varying pedal feels. The insight and involvement from experts with real track experience make this a gateway to the best sim racing currently offers. If that justifies the investment for you and fits within your budget, you're unlikely to be disappointed. Simucube has reaffirmed its status as a top choice for sim racing peripherals. After a brief period with these pedals, it would be very challenging to return to a traditional sim racing brake setup. Regarding the throttle, it offers a familiar yet excellent performance. While it doesn't dramatically differ from my Heusinkveld Ultimate Plus throttle, it was perfectly calibrated right out of the box, with only needing a shorter throw adjustment. Paired with the active pedal, it completes the setup. Having two active pedals would of course be ideal, but even this configuration allows you to fully experience the capabilities of the active brake pedal integrated seamlessly with the throttle, without needing any additional accessories. The big question you're all asking is whether these pedals justify the cost. As I mentioned earlier, I believe they are worth it, but with certain considerations in mind. Unless you have a robust chassis or cockpit, investing in an active pedal might not be wise if your setup can't support it. While I consider high-quality sim racing pedals to be among the best upgrades you can make, having a solid foundation first is crucial. Also, don't expect these pedals to instantly improve your lap times. Now, in terms of realism and immersion, if you're someone who enjoys tailoring wheel settings for each car you drive in each sim, or if you like swapping actual wheels to match the cars in your simulator, then you'll likely appreciate pedals that offer similar versatility at the click of a button. The ability to switch from a GT4 style pedal feel to a GT3 or Formula 1 car can make you feel as though you've actually swapped vehicles. It's a genuinely useful and undoubtedly game-changing feature, though not everyone will deem the cost worthwhile. You'll need to determine that for yourself. Currently, no other product on the market combines such comprehensive features: haptic feedback, force feedback, software adjustability, and exceptional build quality into one product. One important factor to take into consideration is that because these pedals rely so much on software and data, as developers take more advantage of the hardware in these simulation titles, and SimiCube continues to further develop the software, these will likely only get better with time. If your experience with other pedal sets has always felt something lacking, these will likely fulfill that need. If you're debating between 2 or 3 active pedals, it really depends on your frequency of using a clutch, perhaps for manual cars. If it's not often, consider sticking with a passive clutch for those occasions. Regarding the throttle, if it's within your budget, having 2 active pedals would obviously be ideal. However, if the cost seems daunting, even 1 active brake pedal will significantly enhance your sim racing experience. If you enjoyed the review or found it helpful, please do me a favor and hit the like button. It really does help grow the channel. Consider subscribing and hit the bell to be notified when I drop another video. Until next time, stay safe and enjoy your racing.